What's up, kitten cats? Good morning. I just wanted to show you, first of all, I obviously literally just got out of bed. I just wanted to show you my progress picture setup just because I get a lot of questions about how I take progress pictures, and this will be really helpful for all of my clients that are still struggling with taking progress pictures. So the key here is to try and keep everything as consistent as possible, whether it is the lighting, whether it is where your phone or your camera or whatever it is situated, how you're standing, what you're wearing, all of those things. So this is just my little setup. Hold on, I don't want to blind you. So obviously you don't have to have a ring light. I used to try and rely on natural light, like a window light, but that's obviously inconsistent based on when you wake up during the day. So this at least is consistent. So if you can find a consistent lighting setup, and then I just take my phone on video and I just prop it up against something, and I'll stand over there. I'll hit all my poses, hold them for a second, and then when I stop the video, I can just screenshot each individual pose. So that keeps my progress picture setup consistent from week to week. That way my comparisons are actually accurate comparisons. I am a big believer that we should all drink a big glass of water when we wake up first thing in the morning, because you think about it, you just spent 8 or however many hours of not being hydrated, so it's very important to rehydrate your body. So I'll either have my big Starbucks cup down here and I'll just have one of those, or I'll have 2 of these. And then supplements that I take in the morning. So we just have a multivitamin here for just overall health support and performance and all that jazz. We have ashwagandha for stress management and just healthy stress response. We have CBD for anxiety help, sleep help, recovery help, all that good stuff. And then this is Cured's non-stimulant, just energy support. It's called Rise. I'm just taking one of those because I'm usually pretty energized in the morning, so I don't need a ton of assistance there. And then turmeric to help with inflammation management and recovery. Fish oil, because if you can't fix it with squats or fish oil, you're probably gonna die. And then balance for hormonal support and menstrual cycle regulation. Love it. Good job, guys. Are you hungry? More breakfast. Well, lucky for you, you know where to get it. We're finna mix this off. And she's like, I'm gonna sit. I'm just gonna sit. Good girl. Good job. So it is, my hands are disgusting because there's self-tan around them. It's coffee time. I do a decaf in the morning because I know that right after I drink my coffee, I'm gonna drink caffeine before I go train. So I don't want to overstim myself. So we just decaf it up in the morning, which still has trace amounts of caffeine, but you know, it is what it is. So while we're here, if I may, make a couple of wine recommendations. This shit was really good. And this shit was really good. So that's my wine rating system. Was it really good or was it not? And these were. I got them both at Target. So do with that information what you will. So every morning, I like to either start my morning, sometimes I get in little funks and I don't like to read, but I'll either start my morning by reading or writing or just trying to do something like at least semi-centering and productive before I get rolling for my day. So I'm actually rereading The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I read this book around this time 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago, but it was a really, really, really great book. And this is actually what introduced me to Stoicism. This and Ego is the Enemy. I think I read Ego is the Enemy first. But I would consider these, I don't want to say like watered down Stoicism, but kind of in a way more modernized, I guess you could say. So this and Ego is the Enemy, both by Ryan Holiday, are great ones. But yeah, I am just revisiting this book because I didn't have a new book on hand that I wanted to read. And I think it's really interesting to go back and reread a book that you've read at another time in your life and see what stood out to you then, because I like underline and highlight things in books, and then if anything different stands out to you now. So that's what's happening. Hello, lovely friends. We are about to go to the gym. I don't know why I said we. Maybe it's because it's like you're coming with me. I don't know. Also, this camera is very tilted right now, so I don't even know if I'm in the frame. So let's just cross our fingers and hope for the best. Today is a back and chest day with a little bit of arms. So there's really only like one chest thing in there. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'll record a couple of movements and give you guys some cues for improved back recruitment, because that is something that a lot of people struggle with, particularly because your back is on your back body. Like, you can't see it in the mirror. It's very difficult to palpate. You know, it's hard to touch to get that sensation unless you have a training partner who can palpate your back for you. So I have a couple cues that I like to rely on, that I like to give to clients, things like that when it comes to training your back. So that's what we'll do. Also, this hoodie is from my dear esteemed colleague, Nico Medina, his brand Impact. You can actually use the code MDUNC to get 10% off, but pretty nice little cropped hoodie going on. So we're gonna go work out and I'm gonna give you some cues. Let's go. What is up, you guys? So it's been a long time since I've done a voiceover workout, so welcome back if you are an OG subscriber and you remember these, hopefully fondly. Today we're going to be talking about back training. So back is one of my favorite muscle groups to train, but for a lot of people it presents some challenges. So your back is obviously your back body. You can't really see it when you're training because it's behind you. If you think of something like your delts, when you're shoulder pressing, doing lateral raises, things like that, you can quite literally see the movement happening, and to a degree, the muscle recruitment involved. So due to the visual aspect of not being able to see your back, training back and feeling a strong mind-muscle connection to these beautiful muscles can be a little bit harder. Another thing that I hear from clients and strangers all the time is, I feel back movements more in my biceps than my back. And I used to struggle with this as well, so you are not alone. And today we're going to go over some of my favorite tips and cues for getting the most out of your back training. So the first tip here is more of a mental cue, and that is to use your hands as hooks. A lot of time people make the mistake of thinking that they're driving the movement with their hands, and sometimes this leads to pulling more with those biceps and arms like we talked about, and kind of quote-unquote forgetting about your lats or whatever region of your back you're trying to target, whether that's rear delts, upper back, lats, things like that. Your hands are just there to hold the weight that you're moving. They're literally just handles that help, quote unquote, attach the working muscles, aka your back muscles, to the weight that you want them to move. So instead, think about driving your back movements with your elbows. Your elbows, their positioning, and how you're cueing them up decides where to go and what region of your back the movement is going to be focused on. The second tip applies to things like bent dumbbell rows or bench supported dumbbell rows, things like that. This one is pretty simple. I see a lot of people think of only rowing up. That's all well and good, and you are rowing up in a sense, but I can give you one better. So when you are doing something like dumbbell rows, whether they're single arm, whether they're bilateral, think of driving the elbows not only up, but also back towards your waist and butt. As soon as I started using this cue, I swear my lat recruitment increased so much during rowing movements like these. So definitely give that one a try. Again, we're thinking going back and up. You should be feeling like a very strong contraction in that lat when you use this cue. Another tip that's not really a cue, but more so a training tool, is to use straps. Now, some people make the argument that you should be working on your grip strength, and to a degree, I agree with that. But if we're trying to just simply maximize muscle growth, you want to maximize the load you're using, the recruitment of those muscles, and not just your grip. So if you're in a specific sport where grip is key, something like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's a different story. If you compete in a sport where you have to perform a certain lift on a platform or something like that, and you're not allowed to use straps, that's a different story. But again, if you're just trying to get as jacked as humanly possible, having straps to use, especially for heavier sets, in my experience, can help with recruitment by for one, just keeping your mental focus on the working muscles and not your failing grip. So if I'm not using straps on heavier movements, I find that a lot of my mental energy is devoted to making sure that I can continue to hold that weight instead of focusing on the movement at hand, if that makes sense. They also usually help people lift a bit more than their natural grip strength would allow, especially for us females. So straps can be a great tool to add to your training to help maximize a lot of different movements, but especially back or pulling related movements. Another one here is for your lats specifically, and not just other regions of your back like your upper back or rear delts. One cue that I like to think of, especially on movements like this horizontal cable row, is sweeping. So what I mean here is you want to think of rowing low and also back. So a lot of people, they kind of let their shoulders shrug up. They think they're keeping the movement in their back, and they might kind of get a lighter lat contraction. But what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to pull and drag my elbows down, 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 down as I'm rowing back. This gives me some of the most intense lat contractions that I've ever had in my entire life. I love this cue so much. It's helped me quite a lot. It's almost like I'm pulling towards like my hip crease in a sense. But yes, think of rowing low and back. So those are some of my favorite tips and cues. I also suggest just generally spending some time getting to know your back, if that makes sense, and learning what true contraction feels like. Because if you've gone a long time with just overall poor recruitment and not really knowing how to differentiate a actual good back contraction regardless of the region versus just pulling with your arms, it's going to take some time to relearn that connection. So this usually involves spending some time lightening the load, doing some tempo-based work with things like pause squeezes in the shortened position, longer, more lengthened eccentrics so you can really feel that stretch. But remember, you can lift as much weight as you want, but if you're not recruiting the intended muscles, your growth isn't going to be what or where you want it to be. So obviously, again, in performance-specific sports, pretty much the only thing that quote-unquote matters from a competition sense is, are they performing in competition? Are they performing the lift? Are they getting a good, clean lift? So however they lift it, that's totally fine. But if we're talking about, again, like we're focusing on here, as I'm a bodybuilder, maximum muscle recruitment for maximal muscle growth, then we want to make sure that we are getting the tension of a movement in the correct muscle groups. So those are my top tips for back growth, back recruitment, all that good happy stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in just a minute. All right, in typical Dunc fashion, it's like a week later, and it's literally 8:15. I've been up for about almost 2 hours at this point, and I was almost like, well, I can just put this off until after I get back from traveling, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, no, Emily, you want to be better about doing YouTube again? So we're going to finish this right now. I literally just did that voiceover, so that's why I sound like this, is because morning voice. But I was like, we're doing this now, and we're going to do our outro now. That way it can be exporting while I'm at the gym, and I can upload it, and that way it's on the internet, on the YouTubes before I leave for all of my adventures. I'm going to Reno for my birthday to hang out with Chrissy and the squad, and then I'm going to Denver in a couple of weeks to hang out with, wow, to hang out with my Cure Nutrition family. We do have a meetup going on there. It's a fun little wellness event. There's going to be free yoga, going to be free snacks, all sorts of fun stuff. We're just going to hang out, bond, all that good stuff. So if you guys would like to register for that event and come hang out with me in Denver, I would live for that. I will put the link in the description box below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am really trying to be back on YouTube a bit more often these days. Getting back to YouTube, hopefully getting back to podcasting here soon. My big goal for like this season of life is, you know, immediately after I graduated, I wanted my main focus to be on growing my client base, and getting very strong and very just regular there, and putting my emphasis there as far as my career, just because that is my preferred career, if that makes sense, is as a coach. So I really wanted to establish myself there, and get into my rhythm there. So things like YouTube, podcasts, everything like that took a hit. And also just from a technical standpoint, they're not really, for me at least, you know, primary sources of income. So I can't really devote as much time to them because they're not how I support myself financially. Coaching is how I support myself financially. So I'm trying to get back into that rhythm of creating regular content for you guys. So if you cared, that's what I have to say about that. So I am driving home today to take Luna up to my parents because that's who is watching her while I'm gone. And then I am off for a whirlwind adventure. I'm basically going to be living out of a suitcase for like the next month, because I'll actually be in San Diego in around a month to hang out with my friends and go support Nick at his show. So yeah, that's the day today. That's what's happening. I love you guys. See you later.